What's up, Schmac Talk? Welcome back. Um, if you tuned in last week, or yeah, 2 weeks ago,
It was 2 weeks ago.
if you tuned into that episode, we kind of gave you a breakdown of the future, as far as
What we
how
think's
everything
gonna
could be
happen.
arranged.
Yeah.
What can possibly happen.
And
Um,
before you know it, guess what? Season's here.
yep, we're here.
We had what, four college football games last week. We got a whole slate of them starting
Oh
Thursday
yeah,
night this week with our Buckeyes of the Ohio State University playing opening with conference play, man. How do you feel about that? They're opening conference play on Saturday.
I think it's ballsy.
I hate it. I hate it.
I feel like so I was looking through week one this week, and I was
Okay.
just like, okay, there's a couple teams that are, like Michigan's playing East Carolina.
But Harbaugh
Oh,
is Jimmy, right? It's Jim. I always get them confused. Jim Hart. Yes,
yeah, Jim.
Jimmy is suspended. So
Hmm.
did you see what he announced for that? His because
No,
in
I,
case you guys missed it, we are going on a rant like, dude, just take your 4 game suspension, right? Like we just kept saying that, saying that, saying that. Um, he kept saying no, and then the university said, you know what, you're suspended for 3 games. Let's get this done with. Because I think what they're trying to do is appease the NCAA and not have a full blown investigation, because
yeah.
that's what the NCAA
Oh
said they were
yeah.
gonna do. Um, but Harbaugh announced, so like, when Urban Meyer was suspended for a couple of days, he was like, Ryan Day's the acting head coach. Boom, you know. So Harbaugh didn't go that route, which I guess I'm not surprised because the dude is unorthodox. Like
Yeah.
he's weird
a
as
hundred
heck,
percent.
and I
He
should
he
know
does
this.
everything the
That's how he
strangest
wants it.
way
Yeah.
that, like, I don't know. It's his way or the
Like
highway kind
there's
of
a
thing.
there's a Michigan fan at the school I work at, and one of my, coworkers, and he was telling me, so he's a Michigan fan, he doesn't like Harbaugh. He said he doesn't like Harbaugh because Harbaugh is weird. And I was like, well, yeah, but like
Strange, dude.
elaborate on that. And he said, look it up. He was recruiting a kicker, and the story is that he went to the kid's house to recruit him, home visit, all that stuff. Not new. Here's where it was weird. He stayed the night at the kid's house and slept in a sleeping bag in the kid's room. That's weird. Like, that's just odd. But anyway, Harbaugh, I guess he announced that for
What?
his 3 games that he's suspended, they're all having a different head coach. So like the
Okay.
OC is going to be the head coach for one game, the DC is going to be a head coach for another game, and then for I think actually for the second game of the season, if I saw it correctly, the halves have different head coaches. So like Mike Hart, the running back head coach, the running back coach, sorry, will be the interim head coach for one of the halves of that game.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I've never
All
heard that before.
right. Just how it sounds. It sounds like Harbaugh. It sounds like Michigan's testing the waters with Harbaugh
That
not
sounds like
there.
Harbaugh's being
See
Harbaugh. That's
see
exactly what
who
it
who
sounds
could
like.
be a better input instead of him, maybe, if he but I mean he did have a good season last year, and I mean they're playing pretty good. Do I think they'll go to the championship this year? Probably not. There's been a lot of speculation on that, depending on who you ask. A lot of people think that they have a chance. I don't know. With the first 3 games, or with the suspension with Harbaugh, I don't know how they'll play, but I think,
It's 3 gimme games. It's
yeah,
ECU, Eastern Carolina, or sorry, East Carolina, not Easter, but East Carolina. If you sleep on them, if it was at ECU, I'd say if you sleep on them, there's a chance. I think Michigan's gonna win
oh
that easy.
yeah,
UNLV, Bowling Green. I mean, it is, they lucked out with who they're playing. They're not playing anybody this year, and like I'm not gonna give them a bunch of crap because when you look at Ohio State's non-conference schedule this year, they're not playing it. I mean, we're playing Youngstown State. Come on. So I think both of us have both. When I say as Ohio State and Michigan this year, the first 3, 4 games. Oh, I guess we do have Notre Dame.
yeah.
I guess I forgot about that. But I I feel like this is a year like for both teams where their non-conference games other than the Notre Dame game, which I don't know. We could talk about what we think is going to happen with that when it becomes that week. But I think for Michigan, they have been scheduling other Power Five teams the last couple of
Yep.
years, and this year just ended up they didn't have anything set up. So they lucked out in that regard. But I did find it for you. Um, so it says defensive coordinator Jesse Minter will handle game day duties in the September 2nd opener against East Carolina. The following week versus UNLV, the game will be split between special teams coordinator Jay Harbaugh for the first half and running backs coach Mike Hart in the second half. And then the offensive coordinator Sharon Moore will handle the team's third and final non-conference against Bowling Green.
That's still so strange. Like,
It's so weird. I've never heard it before.
I mean,
And I would
I
be
don't
on
know.
your boat
I don't
of
know.
they're testing the waters if Jay Harbaugh was not one of the coaches doing it.
Yeah.
I think that's where I'm like, no, it's Harbaugh being Harbaugh. It's Harbaugh being weird. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, pointing out the Michigan game, you look at week one. It's a typical week one. I think
Yeah.
we're just
I
happy that sports are back, right? Or
yeah,
sorry, college
honest.
football is back because there's no big game. Well,
I mean,
actually, I
okay.
would say this: Penn State, West Virginia. I think that's going to be a good
I
game.
do think
I think
that's
it's
gonna
going
be
to
a
be
good
better than
game.
people think. Oh, we got Florida State and LSU. I didn't even know about that. I'm not doing my homework.
I don't
Uh,
know if that'll be
ooh,
I don't
are
know.
you high on Florida State? I don't know.
No.
Florida State stock in my mind it just keeps rising. I don't know why. Maybe I just
No.
like it that somebody's saying like "f you" to the ACC. I think it's hilarious. So you think LSU got that? I hate Brian Kelly. Maybe that's
I
what it
think
is.
LSU has that. In my
Really? I
mind,
wonder, is it at a
okay.
neutral site
But
or is it?
also, so you know how you feel like your stock for Florida State is like going up.
Yeah.
Me for LSU is like, oh, Dabo's still there. And we're still or not
I was gonna say
uh
Dabo's in South
uh
Carolina. Unfortunately, I got to deal with his ass and his cult-like people. Like
I
Jesus
meant
Christ. But
what
hey,
year was it?
speaking of them
Was like Coach
Tigers,
O.
because you
Coach O?
no, it's Brian Kelly. He left
No.
Notre Dame. Yes, he is. He is LSU's coach.
No, before
Oh,
Brian
Coach O.
Kelly.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Go Tigers.
yeah, that's what I think about. But like
But that's why
prime
you like
Coach O
LSU.
when they're like back to back like SEC champs, and I'm like, okay. I
I
don't
feel
know if
like
they ever went back to back,
LSU.
but
I would say LSU. LSU historically, I think I'd have to like actually look at the numbers. They're better than Florida, but I feel like when I think of LSU and Florida, I feel like they're a team where it's like they're competitive for a couple years and then it's their year. And then
yeah,
they're competitive for a couple years and then it's their year. And it's just like you're
it's
always like,
random strikes,
Ugh.
and LSU's kind of been hiding a little bit. So I mean,
I
I'm,
I
but
haven't
like,
done
do I
a
want
bunch
Brian
of
Kelly to
research on
win
them.
though? So
No, I don't want Brian Kelly to win
exactly,
anything.
exactly,
I
exactly.
want
You know.
I want the angry leprechaun to stay an angry little leprechaun. Okay. So I mean, I don't know. I really don't know what it is. I just when you have a gut feeling about something, my gut feeling right now is Florida State's gonna run the ACC. I don't know why. I can't back it up with anything. No games have been played. That's just that's my
I
feeling
could
right
see
now.
it. I could see it. I
I
mean,
just I watched a few games last year. They didn't really lose a lot of people and they looked good in those games. And I don't know. And I think they're going to play with a little chip on their shoulder because their athletic department has been chirping at the ACC so much. So it's like, hey, put up or shut up. Let's go. And
it's like,
I
oh,
don't
okay,
know.
sure.
I don't know. I like it. I want that story. So, and maybe also because I'm just done with Clemson. But speaking of Clemson, I would say they are week one is very similar for them as it is for Ohio State on the road against a inferior conference team, but a team that you can't overlook. Ohio State's got Indiana. Clemson has Duke. I feel like
All
it's
right. Hear
like
me out
trap
though. Hear
games.
me
It
out
is
though.
trap
Hear me
games
out
for
though.
both of these things. Okay, I'm listening. I'm listening.
Um, Clemson, I'm sorry, but Duke sometimes be nasty on the football field. Sometimes, like every once in a while. I think they're
I
gonna.
think it's trap games, dude.
I think
Trap
they're
games in week
gonna
one. This is bullshit.
stomp
Trap games
on
are supposed to be week
Clemson.
7.
And then I
You think
think,
Duke's gonna stomp on Clemson?
yeah.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
yeah.
Hey,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
the Monday night game. It's the Labor
Let's
Day game. We
clarify
gotta tune in
what
for that.
stomp. When I say
You mean
stomp, I
win
mean
the
like
game.
14
You just
point,
mean you
you
just mean win
know.
the game. That's all it is, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Duke's unranked. Clemson is number 9 in the nation. So all you need is for Duke to win. You don't even need them to stomp them.
That's
You,
true.
you just need them to
One
put a
point's
big
one
old
point, right?
L. Yeah, hey, a win's a win.
I mean,
I mean, I'll
I
definitely
do
watch that game.
think that Duke will upset just out of nowhere, just like what the fuck? Okay. And
Clemson
then
overlooks them. Okay.
I definitely think that Ohio State will beat Indiana, but it won't be a walk in
I
the park.
no. I agree. It's I would not be shocked if it was a 7-point victory.
Oh
I
yeah.
really wouldn't. I really wouldn't because it's just Indiana's one of those teams that
We
when you
always
play
have
them at
problems with them.
well, yeah, not only that,
And
but
it's
it's just
always like
it's not just Ohio State has problems.
that's true.
Michigan
That's true. That's
struggles
true.
at Indiana as well. Penn State struggles. It's you play at Indiana. It's like playing at freaking Purdue or Iowa. They're an inferior team. You know they're like you know you're better than them. I mean, honestly, look at Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. What 3 places in the last decade have they all suffered upsets? Indiana, Purdue, and Iowa.
Hmm.
Like all 3 of them. It was like 3 years in a row at one point.
Oh yeah.
Like it's
I
ridiculous.
I don't know why they scheduled this early, but I hope that
I don't
Indiana's still
know.
figuring out their stuff.
Do
Because
they have a
if
starting
not,
quarterback?
then
It will be,
we're gonna be in some deep water.
and this is what's crazy. And this goes not just for Ohio State, it's for every program. You have turnover in all these positions, right?
Hmm.
We were looking at the roster, off air earlier. There's a lot of changes for Ohio State. A lot of guys coming back. We like the front seven. So we were talking about Jack Sawyer, JTT, Caden Curry. I think he's going to be good. Kenyatta Jackson, I've heard really good things. Will Smith Jr. could play as a freshman. You got Michael Hall Jr., Ty Hamilton, Tyleek Williams. Like those guys in the front line, and then the linebackers we were talking about are loaded, right? But there's
Hmm.
turnover. There's a lot of change in the secondary, but we're not really worried about that. But it's so different when it's a quarterback, right? And it's just crazy.
Yeah.
Like you forget how much changes. Like we're going from CJ Stroud. They did finally make an announcement. It is Kyle McCord, but they said Devin Brown will play. So it's not fully Kyle McCord's yet. And I want to get your opinion on the whole 2 quarterback system in a second. But
I
it's
got a bone to pick.
it's it's so crazy to think about how much the offense can change with the quarterback turnover. And I know the quarterback is like the most important position. I get it. But it's just crazy to like think about like you have turnover in so many other important positions, but that one always determines how your team actually plays. And I always find it interesting. But speaking of that, 2 quarterbacks, how you feel about that?
So I will say I'm not the biggest fan.
Fair. I don't like it.
Just
I hate
because
it.
it's one of those things where, in my mind, your quarterback is like center command essentially for
Mhm.
the 11 on offense
It,
and
it,
on
it is
defense
your
too.
coach on the
Kind
field.
of
That's what
to
they're supposed to be.
like, okay,
Yeah.
not too much to the defense, but the
But they're
def
seen as a leader. They're seen
yeah,
as a leader in the
yeah,
locker room.
yeah. So it's like if you have two, you kind of get a, oh, I'm on this guy's side. Oh, I'm on this
I
guy's side.
yes,
I
that's what
prefer when
I
he
always feel.
throws because he hits me here, or when he throws,
I
I know I can have a little
hmm
leeway in my timing
You
and
have your
stuff like that.
preferences. You have your preferences, and sometimes some receivers work better with others. Same for tight ends and running backs. I also want to point out piggybacking off that. I think you can make the 2 quarterback system work in regards to if they have different playing styles, but then it also becomes
Yes.
too predictable.
Mm-hmm.
Because think back to when Michigan, this is a great example. I always come back to this. When Michigan had um, Robinson and Richardson,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and they would go back and forth, back and forth. One, I mean, I remember sitting in the stands at an Ohio State Michigan game and realizing, oh, when that quarterback's in, it's always a pass.
Mm-hmm.
But when that quarterback's in, it's always a run, whether it's a reverse, whether it's an option, or if it's just a QB sneak. It was always a run.
Yeah.
And so you become predictable because they become really good on that specific thing. And that's what I always try to avoid. I guess I really like dual threats more than I thought. I
Mm-hmm.
guess I think maybe CJ Stroud made me realize that. I hope he does fantastic in the
Yeah.
NFL. I don't know. We'll see. I'll be rooting for him, but I I don't know. I agree with you. I feel like it does divide the offense more than one thinks.
Yeah. And kind of piggybacking off what you had to say with the whole like it's two different styles
Hmm.
essentially. Um like one quarterback might play better at a faster pace. Like they're just like gung
Yeah, hurry
ho.
up offense.
Yeah,
Just go,
more
go,
hurry
go, go,
up, you
go.
know.
Hmm.
And then another one might be more, hey, we're gonna take our time. We're gonna use the whole
It's the
clock.
pro
Yeah,
style,
yeah.
stereotypical.
You
Gotcha.
know, I could
Well,
see like
yeah.
one being more of a gun back and the other one being more under center. I could see something like that, but both
Hmm.
quarterbacks don't seem like, oh, one's more of a pro style, one's more of um
Yeah.
a gun, like more of an option player. I don't know. Gun's just
Yeah, I
more
I don't think
variety
either
in
one
my mind.
were dual threats. I don't think either one were dual threats coming out of high school. I
No.
think they were both technically pocket passers. They're both athletic. We've seen that in the
Yeah.
past. But it is like I like how you pointed out the whole one guy might like having a hurry up and just like they're amped up and they're like, yeah, let's go, let's go, let's go. And that's just how they are. And the other one could be more like laid back. That's fine. I think either one, both are effective, but what
Hmm.
it does is it changes and messes with the offensive mojo, right? The
Hmm.
offensive rhythm. Because either as an offense, we're just gonna go, 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 go until we tire them out. Now, and we're not gonna give them a break to sub. We're just gonna boom, 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 boom. It's like, okay, we only gained 2 yards. Guess what? We're gonna smack you in the mouth again. Okay, now we got five. Okay, boom, now we got 16. Like it just goes, 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 and the other one is more methodical. We're going to pick you apart. Doesn't really matter. You can sub all you want. We're still going to pick your ass apart. And when you change that on the fly so much, your offense, I think it really affects your offensive line more than anything else
Yeah.
because they don't have a rhythm at that point.
Hmm. One thing that I thought of that could be actually be an advantage,
Okay.
just in the scenario at Ohio State where both
There's
are.
no tape on either one of them.
What
Is
was
that what
that?
you're going to say? There's no tape on either one of them.
That's true, but I mean, uh, the if they're both in theory pocket passers with
Hmm.
the athleticism that we've seen, you could in theory run like a almost like a shift in hockey. First shift, second
Okay.
shift, do that
Okay.
and just run like a hurry up
Well, it
and
does
always
depend.
have
Like
the
we're,
fresh legs on the field,
yeah,
especially if like, hey, the quarterback just ran it for 80 yards. Dude's huffing. I mean, granted, you know, I don't know why they would need to come out, just finish
I,
up the momentum, but
I don't know.
it
I like what you're
it
saying.
gives
It's just
options, but it's also like it's got to be
there's pros
executed to
and cons.
perfection.
Yes, and perfection in that sense is not ever going to be
Yeah.
attainable. But in addition to that, it's the whole. Uh, for me, it's a little bit of you don't have a true captain, you know,
Hmm.
for the ship. Like you just don't. And then in addition to that, it's like, okay, well, how how short is your leash for McCord? Like when does he get pulled and Brown go in? When does Brown get pulled and McCord go back in? And it'll be interesting. Because I also think it's hard for you then to bench somebody
Yeah.
if you just keep going back and forth because like, oh, you're not really going to get benched because once he messes up, you're just going to go back in. And it makes me think back to the 15 season with Ohio State where they had Cardell Jones just, had a crazy postseason run against Wisconsin,
Oh
Alabama, and
man.
Oregon, helped lead Ohio State to the national championship. JT Barrett, who got you there, he got you where you needed to be. He's coming back. And so, like, Urban tried to play both of them and a team that had almost everybody coming back from the national championship team fell short and didn't get into the playoffs. And I think that's one of the biggest what if teams in college football history, because just like, because the Florida documentary just came out on Netflix and I did watch all 4 episodes on that.
How was
I
it?
highly recommend it. It was
I'll have
pretty
to check
good.
it out.
Um,
Did it talk
I
about the
enjoyed it. It just
cases? No. I
not
keep
as
seeing
much,
all the
not as
TikToks
much.
about it, and I'm like,
No, not
oh,
it just kind of glanced over like the whole like, hey, they got in trouble a lot. It didn't really go into detail.
okay.
It was more of the like culture, like what Urban Meyer tried to like instill there, and then how it was good but also bad. Because it wasn't sustainable from year to year. But it like Florida probably should have won '08 and '09. Like those seasons,
Yeah.
like they won '06, right? They beat the crap out of Ohio State, and then Ohio State got back into it in '07 and lost to LSU. But '08, that Florida team was loaded. They won it. They deserved it. They probably should have won again in '09.
Hmm.
So just like that, like Ohio State should have won it. They won it in 14. They should have won it in 15.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind. They should have won back-to-back seasons. Um, but they
Where's the
didn't, and
Ohio
I
State
really,
documentary?
oh, that's never gonna happen, dude. It's
Never.
not, it's never gonna happen. Um, but I think the reason why Ohio State did not win that year is because of the dual quarterback, the two quarterback system going back and forth. And so I am worried about that. Hopefully, maybe in the first 3 games, especially against Notre Dame, if Kyle McCord balls out and you
Hmm.
just give him the keys and let him go,
Yeah.
like, hey, let's just take it. Let's take this ride. So I do see this as a trap game, though. I think Ohio State's going to struggle more than people think. And it really comes down to just the quarterback. Because think about
Hmm.
all the weapons they're returning, right? Like they're returning
Buddy,
so much. And
buddy.
it's they're replacing a bunch of guys on the offensive line. Those guys are going to struggle the first quarter,
Hmm.
okay? Especially opening Big Ten play. You have no
And you're not
you
at
have
home, and you're
yeah,
in
you're on
a
the road,
Big
you're in a
Ten
hostile
big
environment.
school,
Now, I will say this, I'm glad
buddy.
this game is happening before the Notre Dame game happens in, I believe, week 4,
Yeah,
because you're
I'd
at
agree
Notre
with
Dame
that.
this year.
Yeah,
So I do
I
like
think
this little like
that'll
warm
help.
up.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they
Yeah.
definitely will need that because if you're just playing kind of at home, you get a little comfortable. Like there's
Yeah.
always
And
the
then
at home and the away percentage. Like these teams can win at home, these teams can't win on the
mm-hmm.
road. And once you
Yeah.
go to like Notre Dame and you're playing there, like it's kind
I mean,
of it's very intimidating.
it's hostile, dude. Like,
Yeah.
looking at, I just pulled up their schedule. I mean, you start at Indiana, so that's a good wake up call. And I don't see them losing. If they do lose, I mean, it's not the end of the world. It sucks, but like, come on, we know Indiana is not going to win out. We
Yeah.
also know that Indiana is not going to end with one loss in the conference, so we're fine there. Um, but then so like you have a wake up call, right? And then you got Youngstown State and Western Kentucky both at home. So then you iron things out and get
Hmm.
ready to go to South Bend against Notre Dame. But then, what sucks is week 5 is your bye week.
Hmm.
You play 4 games, then you have a bye week, and then you're hosting Maryland, at Purdue, hosting Penn State, at Wisconsin, hosting Rutgers, or no, sorry,
Oh my
at
God,
Rutgers, hosting Michigan State, hosting Minnesota, at Michigan. I mean, this season,
buddy.
this is a wake up call for not just like the players. This is a wake up call for like Ryan Day as well and the coaching staff of like, you have a tough 8 games.
I don't know.
You have
Like
a tough 8 games.
I feel like this how everything was scheduled it could have been better as far as like playing
Yeah,
wise.
but one team always gets screwed over. It
Yeah.
just happened to be our
Yeah.
turn. But
Yeah.
I mean, you go from you're going to play in an emotional battle at Notre Dame, and then you have,
A
okay,
week
take a
off.
bye week. I don't even want that bye week that early, but it
Yeah.
is what it is. Maryland's going to come in giving you everything you got. Purdue's going to like do some sort of like spell to try to like, they're going to sell their soul to the devil to try to help. And then Penn State's coming in. I think this might be Penn State's year, dude. Penn State is looking good.
They're
And
crispy.
then you go to Wisconsin,
Yeah.
like,
Boy. And
and
Fickle's just gonna be like, oh hey, Ryan Day. Yeah. I know your playbook.
Yeah,
Thanks, my
that's the
boy.
big thing is Fickle. Fickle is now instilling like you're playing a Wisconsin team that has, the toughness that Wisconsin always has, but now it has the fire that Fickle had at Ohio State and Cincinnati. So like
Oh boy.
you're going to play a team that is still old school, but is also somewhat new school like you. So I'm excited to see what Wisconsin does this year. Because right now it would be a 3 versus 19. I think it's going to be a top 10 matchup. So you got two top 10 matchups back to back with Penn State and Wisconsin. Okay, you go to Rutgers, whatever. That's basically a bye week. I mean, and then hosting Michigan State with your gray out. Hopefully Michigan State's ranked. I think they will be at
Mhm.
that point. But then it's also okay, you turn around, you host Minnesota. Minnesota's no slouch. Come on.
Mhm.
Like, and I, I don't know how they'll be this year, but they're
Yeah.
not going to be a pushover. And then you go to the big house. So, and guess what? The Penn State and Wisconsin games are both to be determined for time, as well as the Purdue. Purdue and Wisconsin are going to make those night games.
Mhm.
They're going to be night games. Like,
Come on.
how would you not put them night games?
Why would you not make him a night game? Get that stands packed,
Oh my
crowded, and
gosh.
just
Like,
completely intimidate Ohio State and then upset
with the
them.
new quarterback, I
And
mean,
then you
right?
know what's gonna
Like,
happen? Riots in the street, baby.
but I mean, we'll dive in more to Ohio State each week just because you guys know we love Ohio State. I think they do have a dub this year. But looking at this first week, what of the top 25 teams, the AP poll, what teams do you think should be on upset alert?
Oh, buddy.
Other than
So
Clemson, you already told us Clemson is on upset alert.
all right, so as far as week one goes, I don't really see that many upsets happening. As
Texas
of
A&M.
who are they
They're
playing?
playing New Mexico. Never mind.
Oh,
I just don't like A&M.
there's really not many that you could say are gonna get upset.
You know what game I'm watching though?
Which
I'm
one?
watching TCU Colorado because I want to see what prime time has done in Colorado already. I'm
I want to see
intrigued
what's
by that.
happening.
I'm intrigued. I mean, like, I guess technically, like, I don't know. There's not a lot. I think the Florida Utah is going to be good. I think Florida's better than their unranked. Like, I, I think they're better than what people think.
Hmm.
Utah is just a wild card for me. So,
Yeah,
like, because they're good, I don't want to like slouch on them. Um, I'm not completely sold on Notre Dame or USC after watching their games, partially because they didn't play anybody. But again, I'm not worried about this week because again, they're not playing anybody.
yeah,
Like, I mean, I don't know if you watched the Notre Dame game at all last week.
I did.
Yeah,
It
that was a waste.
was,
That was a waste of
yeah.
3 hours. I'll tell you what.
I was literally like, wow, this could have been so much better. I could have done
I
something
really
else,
thought Navy would at least score like 17
something
points.
in the second half, something. But I guess it just wasn't their day. I think really the only game that has a chance for a possible upset actually is going to be Ohio State, Indiana. Possible.
I think that would be your best bet. I mean, looking at
Yeah.
this because A&M's got New
It's a pretty
Mexico.
a lot
Well, what
of
about what
uh,
about UNC and South Carolina? I forget about that game in Charlotte. You got the Gamecocks versus the Tar Heels.
go
Technically,
Cox by 90, baby.
South Carolina's not ranked. UNC is, so that's technically an upset. I think that you should tune into that game.
Oh yeah. And I think we're almost out of time. So tune in next week, kids. We'll review this stuff. All right.
Sounds
Hopefully we're
good.
not crying.